table tools in abacus law. And of course, you've already looked at abacus law a little bit too, but so I really want you to focus on the things that you haven't looked at yet. We're going to try to use ethical standards on the use of data and confidentiality software to demonstrate how to organize ways the code can be used securely. Key sources include the e-text, lecture notes, and so on. And keep citing. As you do written assignments, of course. Data entry is a skill. It involves detail orientation, careful work. Asking questions. If you are asked to enter erroneous information early in the process of building a firm or case database, error tends to keep expanding and duplicated across the system. So you need to be assertive, if only sort of in writing, doing memos or something to ask people to let you do it correctly to start. For instance, if somebody's name was actually Felcher and not Fletcher, you'd want to get it correct or it'll just keep duplicating. If you don't know the system really well, you might try to make the changes in the wrong places and it won't duplicate or won't replicate across the system the way you wanted it to. So your reading is chapter 7, and I was displaying some of that. Data entry skills, early mistakes in data entry. And that's in the lessons. And then, of course, the course project. The introduction, that's interesting because you've got a project that spans the rest of the term. But it's just basically prepare to compile what you learned from each project, basically. So this time, the first item in the project, you're going to hopefully say, I learned just to do something with PowerPoint slides. You might say this is review for me since you've already done it, but I'd like you to try to do something basic for this one. Imagine that you are trying to do something that keeps the file size down. That would probably be our goal. What you do not want to do is don't do things that create too big of a file size that won't drop in a Dropbox. So don't use voice or motion. And then we're going to do an access contact list, but it could be Excel instead if you can't do access. And Module 7 discussion, how should a small firm organize its basic data? And then, of course, your live classroom. And this is what the project is doing several assignments over the last weeks. And it sounds kind of challenging, but it isn't. It's just simply doing the assignments the regular way, but also keeping track for the end of what you learned from each assignment. And if you didn't learn much from the assigned work, then let me help you do a workaround to try to enhance it. So if one of the projects just does not work educationally for you, let me know and we will enhance it. Or if one of the projects does not work for your current computer equipment or your current, basically what what you're ready to do right now, let me know. We will make sure that it all works, because you need to advance everywhere that you can in order to do your best, and that's what I'm about here. We're going to work on contact lists, utilities, sort and filter data, prepare a presentation. So this is kind of a warm-up for later use of PowerPoint. These examples are easy to do because you can find them on the web. O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, Robert Blake. They don't have to be these examples. You can use different ones. But these are court cases that are not necessarily research court cases. They may not set a precedent for anything. There's probably no precedents set by any of these criminal cases, for instance. They're high profile, but the public cares about them. Lawyers actually don't, because they don't set a precedent that has to be followed by later judges. What lawyers are concerned about is the ones that go to the Court of Appeals, and where the judges or justices in the Courts of Appeals or Supreme Court of the state, where they decide an issue of law, and then all of the trial judges have to obey that. That's what they're concerned about. But for law office technology, it's in doing graphics, it's actually a better warm-up to do a famous case that the public cares about that will have photos. And then, of course, 6 slides, 2 graphics. I usually tell people to be thorough, but we actually would like to make it viewable, and sometimes not having so many words helps. So being extremely thorough is not really what it's about. You would do it as a realistic one where there'd be some information on the slides, but not so much that you wouldn't listen to the person talking. In other words, the person would have some information on the slides, but otherwise would do some talking. And I realize that does not make sense to everybody, but let me know if there's a problem with that. It's I tend to put a lot of words on my slides, but it's not necessarily the best in every situation. Points for slides. Complete it according to directions, 5 points, but make it illustrate a visual aid. So you're creating your own visual aid. As you create your own visual aids, you learn better than just looking at somebody else's visual aids. I found that out early on in teaching. I was actually teaching banking and finance students in the business program. And when we finally got to advertising and other marketing, they really learned so much because they were creating their own visual aids at each stage of the class. They just, for adults, anytime they do their own creative work, they have great recall. When they're trying to just work on and memorize somebody else's stuff, it tends to lose something. So create your own visual aids, and then I would suggest doing so for other things that you want, where you want to recall it. Even legal points, try to create your own visual aids. Try to take the nuggets of what's going on and create a visual aid. So if you need to learn an appellate legal case in order to help your boss do a brief, you might want to do a kind of a creative thing about it, just to get the facts straight. If you have the facts straight in your head, which, like I said, may take a visual aid for most of us, at least for me, then it's much easier to argue the case. This case is a precedent, and here's why. Excuse me. New software, legal lawyer applications, and other applications. So we want to talk about that too. But again, one place to look is the lawyerist. look at the text, especially case map. And here's another look at access. And of course, again, you have rows that are records, fields that are columns, like business phone, and a given person's contact information would be a record. And then the whole thing is the table. And like I say, this is from Abacus Law. Then the next one is from Access. And notice that they have the file name as ACCDB. It has to be that way. It cannot be a specialized access. There's a number of other ones that are available. And this is the one we're working with more access contacts. Oh, there you are. Hi. Were you trying to log on before? Somebody was, and then couldn't log on or something. I kept hearing beeps, and then I wouldn't see anybody. Oh. Did you have trouble logging on? Now we're starting the recording again. Your live lecture quiz phrase is present with graphics, just those 3 words. One of the reasons they tell people if you want to learn something, teach it, is that if you teach something, you end up doing visual aids for it. And if you do visual aids, you will also learn it. And a good example would be try to teach your children some legal concept and depending on the age, you can boil it down to their level. How old is your child? Okay. Legal concept there, at that age, the only legal concept that they know is that you are you are the mother, right? And that's a legal relationship that you have with that child, and they know that. But when the child, if you were talking to somebody else's a child who was like age 8, you could actually explain legal concepts to that person, to the young child, an 8-year-old. But you'd have to boil it down to a visual aid and explain it with a basic example that makes sense. You could probably, if an intelligent 8, 9, 10-year-old, you could probably explain one of these trials and say this person lost and gets punished, this person won the trial and doesn't get punished, and they would understand it. They would analogize it to being punished at school or something like that. They would be able to handle it. Obviously, it's surprising how much tiny kids know, though, but they can't communicate it. But they're learning relationships, and of course, they do not separate the legal aspect of it from just the comforting and so on. But they know that they know their own parent. And so they know they have a relationship with a parent. And later on, when they get older, they understand, they understand the difference between a parent and a grandparent and things like that. And here's the discussion. And you can talk about legal specific products, but I would like you to talk about things like access too. So we don't just repeat ourselves from what we did last week. So I would take a look at case map and access. Let's see, okay. Microsoft Word, I didn't know that. Did you know you could get rid of formatting with one click? That is weird. I don't remember doing this visual aid, which I should, I suppose. I did it but I did this one a long time ago. But where is that on Microsoft Word? Under mailing or oh, okay, it's that little thing. You have to highlight it, I would imagine. Clear all formatting. Oh, okay, I see that. I'll see if I can make this big. No, I don't know if I can make this big enough, but that is interesting. Yeah, that makes the page bigger, but let's see here. So I've got it highlighted, and it's that one, that A with the little purple eraser. You can get rid of all formatting, and then I can put it back, undoing. Okay. Weird. Discussion. Yeah, you know, that could come in handy, couldn't it? Have you tried using the insert and quick parts yet? Because that would really help as far as if there's a specific format that they want for business letters and another specific format that they want for citation and short form citations that you're going to use over and over. Let's say it's criminal law and you have to use certain legal cases and certain statutes over and over. Wouldn't it be nice to have them just saved right in your Microsoft Word? I would think so. Yeah, 5 points for the discussion for interaction, 2 posts, and use the cited source and show logic. That's how you get your points for discussion. Databases, and you've already done this, but done quite a bit of it, I guess. Right? I mean, you already did quite a bit. Okay. Are you having any problem with it that needs demonstration? So you want alphabetical by first name ascending. You may need to re-enter data to get it right. Do an extra save as. Okay. I'm going to do something with it. I don't think it's that. It's kind of odd. I'm going to do a starter one anyway. go. And I'm not going to do the getting started, but you have choices. And you can type one in here. Do an example. And we did some pull downs here. So he's with Smith, Smith, and Smith. And he's another one of the, although he's an attorney, which isn't in our list, so but it's nice because it already adds it to the pull down list. So now, I think once I get there, I think will be added to the list. No, it won't. I think if I did another one, it'll be added. Yeah, I think so. And you could type it right in there or do the dialog box. Any questions about that? I suppose you've already experimented with it. This should, yeah, now it automatically populated attorney in there. Categories are all business here. And then we can sort it A to Z, which is kind of a natural thing, but then it ends up with these categories that you have to delete the whole record. At least that's the way I've done it. You have to go way over to the left. Were you able to do it a different way other than going way over to this little box to square it up? I don't know if you saw where I was doing, but I was going to the tiny little box to the left of where it says open. Oh, okay, yeah. And I don't know why they didn't tell you that. You know, you must have, I had to fiddle around to find that. Yeah, it's all business. All of the names are business, but yeah, Smith's Contracting is a client. So you get contact list up to 8 points, alphabetical order 4 points, accuracy 3, and it's supposed to look like the page, the assignment page, except that, let's see, except that the assignment page is partially wrong because it's not in the alphabetical order that we want, right? A to Z from top to bottom. There's a graphic that we probably won't use today. Well, I don't see a problem with something on the bottom of the list. That's supposed to be available in case you add to it, I think. Yeah, I would say leave that one. And you've already succeeded, I guess, but for Jenna, I guess, um, yeah. Yeah, it's quite different from Excel. Well, I'm going to pause here and see if there's questions. Basically, we're doing the project, we're compiling the project basically to get you to personalize more and to think about what you're learning as you're going rather than just getting through it. So that's the thing. Take away to the working world. That's the point. Okay, well, I'm going to let you use the remainder of the time to finish a little bit and stay in contact, okay? Thank you very much.